LMGs have to be one of the most underappreciated types of weapons in Call of Duty, but not today, my friends. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy, your Chaos. Today, we're going to be checking out what I think are the top 20 best LMGs in Call of Duty history. So you let me know what you think the best is. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you guys are subscribed. And at number 20, the 20th best, the Raw. In Infinite Warfare, the first LMG in IW is also arguably the best LMG in IW. I always thought it was super fun to mess around with. Had a pretty moderate fire rate, very high damage to go with that really low recoil. And on top of all that, the cherry on the top, it was a laser weapon. That meant you could actually bounce the shots off of walls and floors. And since the base damage was so high, it wasn't hard to kill people around corners. I mean, if you knew what you were doing, you could. Heck, even if you didn't know what you were doing, the Raw could be a great weapon for spraying and praying. Definitely a good way to start off today's video. Before we move on, guys, we are giving away a PS5 at 2.8 million subscribers. The pinned comment below gives you all the details, multiple ways to enter, and all of it's free. At number 19, the 48 Dredge in Black Ops 3. I've lightened up on this gun over the years. I was initially super dismissive of it, and in my defense, it was a very awkward weapon to use when you first picked it up because of the fact that it was a 6-round burst. But once you got the hang of the fire rate and the hang of the handling, the 48 was actually a monster. Killed enemies in the blink of an eye due to the fact that you only needed a few shots of your 6-round burst to connect in order to drop them. And that burst, well, it came out pretty fast. It's definitely not a gun for everyone, but the people who loved it, well, they absolutely swear by it. And I think it's deserving of a spot just for the sheer potential of the TTK. At number 18, the Raw MG in Modern Warfare 2 2022. This thing was introduced to the COD franchise with Modern Warfare 2019, where it was one of the most average guns to ever exist. But when it was brought back in MW2, well, they buffed it for some reason to the point that some people actually thought it was one of the best guns in the entire game. Pretty low fire rate compared to the other fully automatic guns in the game, but it hit like a freaking Mack truck. It was easy to control. It made it easy to get kill after kill after kill without having to reload because you started out with a massive 75-round default magazine. Now, the Modern Warfare 3 version wasn't quite as good due to the fact that Modern Warfare 3 was a much faster-paced game, and LMGs weren't as viable as the previous Modern Warfare game, but Modern Warfare 2 Raw, it deserves a spot. I mean, say what you want about Modern Warfare 2 as a game, but this thing belongs here. At number 17, best name on the list, the Dingo in Black Ops 3. Widely hated by a lot of the Black Ops 3 community because of how easy it was to use, but if you were the one behind the trigger, it felt amazing. Pretty quick fire rate for an LMG in this game. Rather low base damage, but that recoil, it was also very easy to control. And the iron sights were super clean. It was a great gun for running around the map, spraying people down, and generally just being a nuisance to the other team. Plus, had a gigantic magazine that looked like a big metal football. Now, I'm still not entirely clear how this thing actually worked and functioned, but it was fun to use. Definitely a top 20 LMG if you ask me. At number 16, the MG82 in Black Ops Cold War. Now, it was added to Black Ops Cold War's DLC a few months after the game came out, and after being pretty underwhelming by we were pretty underwhelmed by the LMGs at launch, I was pretty happy to have something like this. It was a heavy weapon, and the weight takes some time getting used to, as well as some attachments to offset the movement penalties, but the satisfaction of shredding through enemy players was worth it. Believe it or not, the MG82 is actually meant to be the Amelie from Ghost and Advanced Warfare, but you probably wouldn't have guessed that, because it was way better. It was just an interesting little piece of the COD universe I wanted to share with you guys. At number 15, the BRM in Black Ops 3. It's probably not a gun most of you were expecting to see on today's list, but it was actually kind of nutty in the right hands. Starting LMG in BO3, pretty low fire rate, bouncy recoil, but the kicker was the damage. It was super high. It was virtually always a 3-shot kill, which made it very valuable in a game like Black Ops 3, where it could be hard to stay on target for more than 3 to 4 shots due to the advanced movement. The BRM's recoil could also be drastically toned down with a single attachment, and it had one of the coolest reload animations in COD history, which wasn't a necessity to the weapon, but it was a nice touch. You get bonus points. If you're still playing Black Ops 3, which apparently a lot of you are, go give the BRM another try. You might have forgotten how good it was due to it being a default unlock. At number 14 today, the M27 IAR in COD Ghosts. Now, we all know the M27 in Black Ops 2 is a fan favorite, one of my favorites, but a lot of Ghost players felt that the M27 in Ghost tarnished the legacy because it was super spammy and annoying as an LMG. I know, these are technically two different weapons and two different weapon categories, but I still think it's funny that Black Ops 2 and Ghost had two different versions of the M27 in 2 consecutive years, with one being a fan favorite and the other one being super toxic. This version was too easy to use, super annoying to go up against, especially if the user had one of the annoying optics on it. But even though it was annoying, we have to be honest with each other here on the channel. We have to agree it was really powerful. Definitely deserves to be on the list. I'm not saying it was a dignified weapon at all, but it was good. At number 13, let's go way back. The MG42 in World at War. Now, to me, this LMG is one of the few weapons in COD history that could give an enemy player just by hitting them in the right place. That's one of the most satisfying things in the entire franchise. The World at War MG42 had an insane fire rate, had moderate damage, but surprisingly low recoil, and it made it easy for you to stay on target and secure the kill before they could fire back. And then, when you dealt the killing blow, there was a chance your enemy's arm or their leg would fly clean off into the sunset and make you feel like a total boss on the battlefield. It was a plus. I don't know why later LMGs didn't bring back the ability to gib like this, but they should have. It was one of the most satisfying things in COD history. The COD devs have never put it back in their games. Now, I will say this. The firing sound on this thing was also pretty nasty.
There we go. A headshot. That's what we like.
At number 12. The chainsaw in COD Ghost. This was so unique at the time. It's still one of the most fun to use LMGs in COD history, assuming you're playing on one of the smaller maps where it was viable. Hip fire only weapon. Very high fire rate. Pretty high base damage. Allowed you to run around like John Rambo and shred through people without aiming down your sights. There was a downside, though, to the chainsaw. It was the fact that a lot of maps in Ghost were huge. And obviously, you're not going to have much success on large maps with a gun that can't ADS. But if you were on smaller maps like Strike Zone, it was fun. The map design of this game kept it from reaching its true potential. But I think it deserved a spot because, on paper, it was nuts. And it was just a ton of fun to use. At number 11, the L86 LSW in Modern Warfare 3 2011. I will bet money some of you forgot it existed. And I'll admit, I kind of forgot about it too and still started going through the LMGs from the franchise to build out the list. But the 2011 version of the L86 was busted. I think there's a good reason why it was one of the only LMGs you ever saw online in the game. LMGs weren't popular in Modern Warfare 3 due to the fact that the ACR existed, but the L86 had some ridiculous potential, mainly thanks to the fact that it was a 3-shot kill no matter where. It didn't matter how far the enemy was or what attachments you were running. The gun would kill in 3 bullets no matter what. And I know the recoil could get bouncy and it was a pretty heavy gun, but with 3-shot kill potential, I mean, that's what you want to lock down objectives. And that giant 100-round magazine meant you could get halfway to your Moab without even reloading. A lot of you slept on this gun, myself included. Now we get to the top 10. This is where it gets really good. The Titan in Black Ops 4. If the Titan never got nerfed, it would have probably been in the top 5 of this list. But since Treyarch eventually wised up, brought it back down to earth, here it is at number 10, which is still really good. Moderate rate of fire, super low recoil, super high damage. It made it one of the most consistent guns in the game, as well as one of the easiest to use. It also had pretty quick handling speeds for an LMG, which made it feel more like a heavy assault rifle, despite having that gigantic default magazine and the power to kill in 3 to 4 shots from any distance on the map. Plus, the Titan could take down UAVs and other kill streaks with just a handful of shots, which made it a better defensive tool than a rocket launcher, while also having that insane TTK. Usually Call of Duty weapons will be good at killing people or good at destroying streaks. But the Titan was amazing at both of those things, and that's what made it so OP. Like I said, Treyarch eventually nerfed the Titan's damage against other players, so it's at number 10. I mean, it would have been higher if they hadn't. At number 9 today, the Hades in the same game, Black Ops 4. I think this is one of the cheesiest guns in COD history because of the infamous operator mod that basically turned into a better version of the chainsaw from Ghosts. This LMG had a pretty decent fire rate, respectable damage, gave it a very competitive time to kill up close and at mid-range, but that crossbar operator mod would give up your ADS ability for this super tight hipfire spread that let you run around the map holding down the right trigger and just shredding through everybody. And you didn't ever have to aim precisely. It was super cheesy, very frustrating to go up against, but a ton of fun to use. Now we move on to number 8. The RPD in Modern Warfare 2, the original. Out of all the classic Modern Warfare 2 LMGs, I think this one was pretty easily the best. It was more or less copy-pasted from COD 4. It wasn't quite as good as its older brother due to the stiffer competition in Modern Warfare 2, but it was still an insane weapon to have in your hands. Fire rate solid, ammo capacity through the roof, recoil manageable, and it could kill with 2 shots from a pretty far distance, assuming you were using Stopping Power Pro. In any other game, the RPD would have been top tier. The only reason it's at number 8 on this list is the fact that there's even more insane weapons in Modern Warfare 2 that it was going up against. So the movement speeds could sometimes get you in trouble, but the raw stats, they were crazy. At number 7, the hammer in Black Ops 2. It was an LMG variant of the iconic Scar assault rifle, and it really felt like it. It also had an interesting hyperburst feature similar to the AN-94, where the first few shots, when you pulled down the trigger, would come out faster than the default fire rate, which gave it this insane theoretical time to kill if you could land those quicker shots. Even if you missed the hyperburst, the hammer was an extremely intimidating gun to go up against because of the insane damage values and the very manageable recoil. You could easily laser people from mid and longer with this thing. If you landed those quick initial shots, you could erase enemy players before they even heard the shots. At number 6, second coolest name on the list, the Stoner 63 in Black Ops. Did you know the Stoner has the exact same stats as the FAMAS? Almost. That's why it's so insane. It was the last LMG you unlocked in the original Black Ops. It fired at the exact same fire rate as the FAMAS while killing in 3 bullets from any distance. So technically, the Stoner actually had better stats than the FAMAS, since the FAMAS would eventually drop down to 4 shots at longer range. Stoner remained a 3-shot kill across the map. The only difference between the two weapons was the recoil and the weight. The Stoner kicked more and moved slower, but if you wanted a raw killing machine, the Stoner was your best friend. Took a while to get the hang of the recoil, but the raw time to kill was absurdly fast. It did have a really, really small magazine, though. Now we arrive at the top 5. The MG42 in Vanguard. Now, I wasn't a fan of Vanguard, but I will say that this game's version of the MG is one of the most satisfying guns in all of Call of Duty. Fire rate, insane. Sound effects, ridiculous. But those handling speeds were actually pretty quick, and thanks to the fact that you had 10 attachment slots, you could lean into the best attributes. A few attachments would eliminate the recoil entirely. You'd be left with this hulking bullet hose that shreds through enemies like it's nothing and sounds incredible in the process. This is easily the best version of the MG42 in COD history. I could confidently put it in the top 5. At number 4, the Lewis in COD World War II. Not as flashy, not as cool as the Vanguard MG42, but I think the COD World War II Lewis is the best LMG that Sledgehammer has ever made. Pretty average rate of fire, but what made it so good was the insane base damage and no recoil. All you had to do was hold the 2 triggers down, right? Aim in the enemy's general direction and you would erase them with a few shots. The Lewis was so easy to use and so versatile because of that 3-shot kill range. It was a top-tier weapon in COD World War II and one of the only weapons people used in the shipment playlist. Sometimes the most powerful guns in the game are the most annoying ones to go up against, and that is the perfect description of the Lewis. At number 3, the PKM in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, with how fast-paced this game got after the movement exploits were discovered, most of the LMGs ended up falling down the tier list or being forgotten completely. But despite all the crazy gunsmith discoveries, the PKM remained an incredible gun in basically every playlist as well as the original Warzone. This thing was the definition of consistent. Magazine, huge. Fire rate, solid. Recoil, low. Damage per shot, almost always enough to drop an enemy in 3 to 4 shots. No funny business, no fancy attachments. Just a straightforward LMG that would shred through anybody who stepped in your line of sight. Plus, since it was in the Modern Warfare 2019 guns, the visuals and sound effects were awesome. At number 2, all the way back to COD 4, the RPD. I mentioned earlier the Modern Warfare 2 version wasn't quite as good as its older brother, and that's because the older brother was frankly overpowered. The COD 4 RPD was a 2-shot kill from any distance with stopping power. Recoil manageable, 100 rounds in the mag at a time. Crazy. It had a resettable fire rate. Plus, on top of that, it wasn't going against the ridiculous Modern Warfare 2 guns like the UMP or the ACR, which made it stand out. I would say the RPD was a top 5 gun in COD 4 because of the insane 2-shot kill potential and the ease of use. Maybe a hot take, because I don't think this is one of the LMGs people usually think of when you're talking about the best LMGs in COD history. But if you go back and watch the tape, you'll see. You'll understand. Seriously, 100 rounds in the mag, good fire rate, low recoil, 2-shot kill. How were you supposed to compete with that? And at number 1 today, was there ever any doubt? The LSAT in Black Ops 2. There's a reason this gun was so annoying to go up against back in the day. It was one of the most reliable guns in Call of Duty history, and that's what made it so strong. Not only did it have a gigantic magazine with some really annoying attachments, yes, FMJ and target finder, but it also had a good fire rate, no recoil, and a massive damage profile. It could kill enemy players with 2 to 3 shots depending on how high you could aim. With how easy it was to use and how hard it was to blame people just sitting in a corner or a head glitch spraying across the map because it was an effective strategy, I don't know. The LSAT was leagues better than the other LMGs in Black Ops 2. I would honestly argue it was the best LMG in COD history. Here it is. Other LMGs may have had bigger magazines, faster TTKs, but none of them dominated their multiplayer experience the way the Black Ops 2 LSAT did. Because if somebody was using the LSAT and they had good positioning, there was legitimately nothing you could do. All you could do was wait for them to reload and try to rush them. But if an LSAT player was looking at you and you weren't already shooting at them, it was game over. They were going to spray you down, shred through your cover like it was nothing. To me, this is the best LMG in COD history. Probably not going to change my mind, but you can give me some honorable mentions that you think deserve to make the list. I'll see you guys soon.